So, for the section of the Horizon report that I read, it was looking at midterm impact trends and how we can implement technology adoption in K to 12 within the 3 to 5 years. I'll also talk about the short term impact trends after I talk about these two ones. So, within the Horizon report, it talked about two main different types of ways that we can implement this technology in the K to 12 classroom for 3 to 5 years. The first one that it discussed is increasing the use of collaborative learning approaches. So, just like we've been doing in this course all along, this is encouraging students to collaborate in their learning. So, they'll be working together in peer to peer groups or activities. So, just like we've been doing through Google Slides and through Google Docs and in our PLN groups, this is going online using technology to collaborate in our work. This is it's a really important way for students to be learning because it'll actually promote learning. It'll allow the students to engage in active learning, and it's going to give each student the opportunity to contribute to different discussions and assignments, etc. So with current technology trends, this is going to make it much easier and much more possible for students to enhance their collaborative skills because they can not only do it within the classroom, but now they can do it anytime, anywhere. Just like we've been doing all semester this semester, we can do it on our own time, wherever it's convenient, and we can do it anywhere, just like right now, how I'm in Scotland and I'm still collaborating to the group here. So, and yeah, just like it says there, global collaboration. So, not only can you be working with students in your own class, but this actually could provide opportunities for you to be collaborating with students in other countries. So, for example, if you're studying a language class, maybe you could pair up with a class in a different country and you could work on your language skills for that as well. So, some of the implications for policy leadership and practice for using these collaborative learning approaches. There are not currently many policies governing or mandating approaches for this specifically. So, the policymakers need to rethink how they invest in and organize schools so that there is more time for professional learning collaboration among teachers. Because step one for implementing this is making sure that the teachers know how to use these tools before the students can actually use them themselves. So the teachers need these specific skills in order to establish this collaborative learning within their students and within their schools. This is a really important tool that should be implemented in schools with all of these advancements in technologies. It's really important that teachers are going to be using these technology tools in order to enhance their students' learning. Students these days are very they really want to use their mobile devices. They like using technology, so we need to really dive in and use those resources. The second midterm impact trend that this Horizon report discussed was shifting from students as consumers to students as creators. So this kind of reflects a little bit back onto our maker discussions that we had last week. But this is the whole idea that students are learning through exploration of subject matter, through creating, rather than just consumption of content. So rather than sitting in their classroom and listening to lectures, etc., the students actually are going to be creating something. And with the growing accessibility of mobile technologies, this is giving a rise to a whole new level of comfort with producing media and prototypes. So it might not necessarily be creating something in the physical sense, but there's all of these online tools now. So whether you're creating educational videos, you could create using things like Chogger to make comic strips. There's bit strips. There's all of these different online digital tools that can foster creativity along with production skills. Online screen capture software, just like I'm using right now, is a very great way for students to make their presentations. So maybe if they're more comfortable recording themselves at home rather than giving a presentation in front of the class, they can do that as well. So implications for policy leadership and practice for students as creators. The main issue here that the Horizon report tended to discuss was actually copyright. So with all of this publication of student work, of course there's going to be copyright laws, copyright policies. Currently, student work that is being copyrighted is kind of negatively affecting the students because the school itself is copyrighting the material rather than students themselves. And when the school copyrights it, it consequently prohibits the student who actually made it to publish, share, and remix their own content in the future. So schools really need to educate themselves on the legal risks as learners become more accustomed to using this new technology. So looking at some of the short-term impact trends, so driving ed tech adoption in K-12 for 1 to 2 years, so there's two for this section as well. So the first one here being increasing the use of blended learning. So blended learning, this is pertaining to the formal integration of online delivery for content, as well as in-class work. So this is the combination of actually participating in classroom activities, going listening to classroom lessons, being in the classroom, engaging with your peers, but also combining that with online work. So a lot of studies have been done around this, and some of the benefits were shown here is that the environment allowed teachers to personalize learning and made it easier to facilitate small group instruction for students who need additional support, and students were endowed with a sense of accountability and ownership over their own learning process. So shifting some of the classroom into an online learning environment, the teacher can personalize learning for specific students, so they might be able to give different types of activities to different students depending on their strengths or weaknesses in the class. And then as well, if it's all online, it gives that student a sense of accountability that they are responsible for their own learning. They're going online, they're actually completing it on their own rather than being driven 100% by the teacher. So this hybrid learning is very important in education because it's actually reflecting the real world. So today, you go into your workplace, it's not always going to be simply writing down, being in class and working with a physical environment, but it's actually also occurring in a virtual setting. Most jobs these days, you're working online, you're working through using collaborative learning. Tons of companies are using things like Google Docs and Google Slides and all of this collaborative learning like I talked before earlier. So in the schools that have actually implemented this, the school day is divided between teacher-led instruction and personalized online learning. And there was actually a study that was completed that showed that almost 100% of students jumped up 1.5 grades in reading and scored better than 65% of the country's third graders when they adopted this hybrid model. So some of the implications for policy, leadership, or practice for increasing the use of blended learning here. There are a number of advocacy and policy efforts underway to support the uptake of blended learning designs in schools, but there are 5 critical areas that policymakers really need to know, and that is creating competency-based education systems, improving student access and equity, measuring and assuring quality from inputs to outcomes, supporting innovative educators, and supporting new learning models through connectivity, data systems, and security. So the final thing that I'll just talk about here is the rise of STEAM learning. So again, this is a short-term impact trend, 1 to 2 years. In recent years, there's been tons of emphasis and development on STEM learning, so STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics curriculum. So this is the integration of these 4 subject areas. But now they are kind of realizing that maybe they should be implementing more of the arts into this for a more balanced curriculum. So things like arts, design, and humanities right in with the sciences and everything. So this is what's giving rise to STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So schools are converging subjects that have traditionally been isolated. Traditionally, science, technology, engineering, math, arts have all been very separate, distinct subject areas, but now they're really trying to integrate it, which will really help connect to the real world. So an example given in this article of STEAM learning is that teaching students how mathematical concepts such as geometry are embedded into artworks and mosaics. And a study that the Horizon Report discussed, it actually showed that students who are engaged in music class do better in mathematics than students who are not engaged in music class. Some of the implications for policy, leadership, or practice for the rise of STEAM learning here is, currently governments are crafting STEM education policies. However, STEAM learning has not yet received the same level of attention. So there's a ton of work being done with STEM, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but there really hasn't been a ton of attention for adding this arts component into it. So that really needs to be discussed by school leaders and publicized to really show that the benefits of STEAM learning.